Hello, and welcome to the Weshtern Philosophy podcast. Two friends with oceans and oceans discussing the unseen forces in our lives through the lens of music, mystery, and crack. For this, our first episode, we try and fail to introduce ourselves and find ourselves instead speaking about place.
But then there was a lady at the Cliffs and she asked me to play The Drunken Sailor, and I was like, I don't know the origin of that song, but I don't think it has anything to do with Ireland. But then thinking, well, obviously, because I'm such a people pleaser, I gave it a good go. Key G, there we go. But thinking about it later, or even just thinking about it now, I was thinking, isn't it amazing that she actually didn't know anything about Irish music, but she still had such a strong feeling of it and enthusiasm for it, even though she didn't actually know any of the content of it. You know.
Do a wee exercise.
Yeah, let's do an exercise. Yeah.
Can we introduce?
You enjoyed it, being the interviewer in this case. I see.
Well, can we introduce each other?
That's better.
So
That's much better.
I think I'll take a stab at introducing you and like.
Oh, no. The one that goes first has a much easier job. Okay,
you can.
No, I'm joking. Go on.
If I massively misrepresent you, or insult you, I just want you to know I don't care. But
good man.
So I would say you are Bart Laver.
Yeah.
You are a translator. You are somebody that is interested in communication and in transmission of ideas across spaces and across cultures. You followed your love of music to Ireland, which I think is an extraordinary story because you're here because of music, you know? And you've dragged your poor innocent family along with you. God love them. And you're a very empathetic man. You're a very deep thinker. You value communication, community, and crack. And recently you've been hassled by fairies ever since moving to your new home in the middle of the Burren.
That was very good.
Yeah.
I didn't like being a translator first,
right.
But otherwise that was lovely.
Okay.
But I think that makes sense because that is my job.
Yeah.
So,
But I'm thinking of a broader term of translator, like not just like text in, text out, but like because.
No, I know how you did contextualize it.
Yeah, you know, and that I think is important, and like. Not to get too far into it, but like we're all blow-ins here, you know? And like I think sometimes people from outside of Ireland can maybe sometimes feel a bit self-conscious of their place within a small community culture and stuff like that. But like what I was trying to get across is you're very good at this. Like you're very good at, you know, you speak perfect English. You've followed the culture here. You're a part of the living tradition of Irish music now.
Yeah,
you know,
that's special, and that says a lot about the culture of Irish music, I think, which is very open to people joining in with it and actually aware of it being kept alive by modernization. Yeah. I think it's nice. Thank you. That was lovely. And I think it's nicer to hear actually one person describe the other than doing it yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right, now I'm a bit scared of talking about you.
I might leave the room. Yeah, this is actually fair play to you for like sitting, like this is uncomfortable.
This is fairly uncomfortable. It's probably good that we're doing this on microphone.
Yeah.
God, yours felt very like you thought about it. I know it was spontaneous, but right, you are Anthony Patrick O'Connor.
Oh, we don't need the middle name.
We do, because I think that's part of your burden is that you're very Irish. But
you fucking got me there.
Yeah. The look on his face, ladies and gentlemen, is beautiful. You know why I'm going to comment on myself? I think one of the reasons I find this uncomfortable is because I'm quite a gushy person, and you do not like being gushed over.
You can probably feel it emanating.
Yeah, it's like I feel it in my chest right now.
It's like I can feel the punch coming, but I actually prefer it was physical violence.
Yeah, I know. So I'll try and lay off a little bit for your sake. But the first thing I think of when I think of you is as a very good friend. And
now I feel terrible.
No.
You're just a translator to me.
No, you contextualize that beautifully. I think it also goes to show that you're very clever, and you're very you're also a very deeply feeling person, but you're also very smart. And I think that so when someone asks you to or you ask yourself to describe me, Jesus Christ, it'd be so handy if I did this in my first language. Dus toen Anthony mij vroeg om mij te beschrijven. No, I'm joking. But so that made sense to me. But I think I'm more emotional first, so that's why. But that's the thing I value very much in you, is that how good a friend you are. You're extremely kind and loyal and considerate. Apart from that, you're a Chinese medicine practitioner, or should we call it Taiwanese?
I would say, yeah. Well, I'm trying to rebrand as East Asian medicine, East Asian traditional medicine. Yeah, there's no
good.
nice
East Asian.
Yeah.
But you're incredibly good at that. Like, that's I'm amazed by your level of skill with that, and you've helped me personally with it a lot. This is all too personal and emotional. But anyway,
We'll get into your medical records.
Yeah, exactly. But and you're a fantastic musician, bass player, and I also, like me, very interested in ideas and community and connection and conversations. Yeah, I've derailed myself.
No, that's nice. I think it's interesting to see, like, because I didn't know what I was going to say until I said it about you as well. And I think it's interesting what we land on.
Yeah.
Because I think it is very important how we each view the other as well as, like, because I'm not coming in here as like, I'm going to present my views and Bart's going to present his views.
No,
like, this is collaborative.
Yeah.
And I think I thought that was hilarious. You're like, oh, don't say my middle name. And you're like, that's part of your burden. And you're like, it 100% is. It absolutely is. I am somebody who took my Irishness away for very, very many years and has come back with it, recontextualized. And you were somebody who found something in Ireland that you had to return to as well, and like, I've often said Anthony Patrick O'Connor. It's like it is like the John Smith of Irish names. Yes. Like it's why I usually use what you call them, not pseudonyms, but like tags or something. I put photography and Chinese medicine and stuff. Yeah, because there's so many Anthony O'Connors out there, But you're right, that is part of.
I really think it is. Yeah. It's so palpable. But I like this. This is very interesting because it gets into it when you're talking about the other person, and it's pretty vulnerable.
It is.
But I like that we both had some very positive things to say about the other. Yeah. I feel like I'm missing a few with you. Like, there's definitely, you've a lot of strings here, but you're an amazing photographer as well. Like, the portraits are gorgeous. He's very uncomfortable, ladies and gentlemen.
But like, I've missed bits with you. Your theater background as well.
But we don't have to. Oh, geez, now it's getting a bit plamassy now. We're stopping it. But I like that bit about Irishness as well. Yeah. Because like, I'm not one of those people. Like, I don't like it when people come in from outside and say that they're Irish. Yeah. A lot of Americans have a tendency to do that. Mm-hmm. I don't think I have an Irish drop of blood anywhere in my genealogy, but there is something that draws me here and that I connect to, and I can see it because the evidence is just around me that it does work. Yeah. And even like the way I speak English has now been hugely Irishified, and that went very quickly. That wasn't very conscious idea. It was just like, I was in Galway 2 weeks and people were like, so you're from Galway? I was like, no, not even slightly. I would say to people, I'm from Holland, and they would go,
slightly.
where? Oh gosh,
very good.
They would say, like, I would say I'm from Holland, and they would go, where in Ireland is that? Yeah. Literally, it was like as if it was a bunch of set up punchline. Yeah. But I like that.
Ballyholland is
exactly. But also now. So I think the first time I was in Ireland on my own doing Erasmus and doing my masters, I really valued that connection, and now I value the connection, but I'm also trying to bring in the other parts of me that aren't connected to that. Yeah. And because I also see that there is some value. Like, I had a friend here locally say to me that he liked me being Dutch because he knew that I could trust what I was saying, which is a terrible slide in the Irish and not true. Yeah. But more like the directness. Yeah. I do think that's a part that's true.
Well, and just before we go on, I do want to say that this is not a podcast about us. No. We will introduce ourselves, we'll give a bit of context and stuff like that, but this is a podcast about whatever the thing we're talking about is. Yeah. Like, we are not We are not influencers. We are not comedians. We do not have a brand, you know.
That's a good way of putting it, but it is viewed through the lens of our friendship and our communication.
And our personal experience, and I think that's very valuable. But, you know, when we say that you are, you know, a dad and a musician and a performer and an actor, also an actor, but those things will influence the chat, but it's not about that. It's not a Chinese medicine practitioner is interviewing a trad musician, you know?
No, not at all.
And the other thing I will say is, like, because I was over in Taiwan and I was talking to a friend of mine who's a European lady doing a PhD in anthropology in Taiwan. And I spent a lot of time there. And like me, my background was in China. And when you go to a culture that different, I think at the start, it's appropriate to just be like, okay, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to see how they do things here, you know? But at a certain point, cultural exchange kind of, it almost mandates you to start behaving authentically.
Yeah.
And even where it brushes up against that culture, which you might love very dearly, if you're completely subservient to the culture you have entered, there's no exchange happening.
Yeah.
And actually everybody loses, because I think very strongly that alloys are stronger and culture benefits from people that come in. You know, you play in trad sessions. Like I said, you're part of the living tradition of the trad music. And definitely I have benefited from the Dutch aspects of you. I'll never forget, like, you messaging me going, hey, will we do this at 1 o'clock tomorrow? I'm like, oh, well, you know, that's fine. It could be. And you just texted back saying, is that an actual yes, or are you just being Irish? And I was like, I'm being Irish. Please don't make me do it. I'm so tired. I'm so busy.
Yeah. You know? Well, but it's a fine line, and it's a bit like the music. It's like, if you're playing in a session, you want to be heard, but you also want to be very considerate of others. Mm-hmm. And that's something, because obviously for funny's sake, I like to give out about Irish people. But obviously I love this place deeply. That's why I live here. I love the people. And I love the kindness and consideration that I do think are really eminent. Is that the right word? But they're everywhere here. Mm-hmm. Like, I see so much kindness that sometimes when I went back to the Netherlands, I was like, ooh, this is a bit rough. This is a bit cold. Mm-hmm. And that's not because the people are less friendly, but they are less friendly to strangers. Sure. And also the circumstance of having 17 million people in a small place kind of mandates that. But anyway, now we're going all the way into that. But there is
something about, like, you know, like plants. We have to be placed in the right soil sometimes. You know? And sometimes when you find it, it's heartening, you know. Yeah.
But there is an interesting connection that we both have, is that we, like you have said often, that we both chose to live here.
Yes.
Like, even though I'm from a different country and I'm
from Kerry, which is the
Kerry,
same thing.
Yeah, 3 hours up the road.
Yeah.
Well, that's something I really learned when I lived in Galway, was that the people who came from Dublin felt as foreign there as I did, which I thought showed a lot about how localized Irish society still is.
Absolutely, yeah.
Where a lot of places that isn't the case.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, you know, Kerry to Clare can feel like a very big journey, you know, and I think that's one of the nice things about Ireland, is that, you know, every 50 miles we have a different accent. You know, we're very strong sense of place on a very local level, which I think is really, really important. And it's an interesting thing, is how do you maintain that when people are coming in, you know? Yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do with integration. Like, you're very integrated. I'm not as extroverted as you. Yeah. And I definitely had to work more at it. Yeah. You know, I think about it a lot of the time by piggybacking off you, or
I don't think that's
or
fair.
My amazing partner.
I don't think that's fair.
But no, like the trad session every Sunday and stuff like that, and just being in the community and being present and committing to it. I had somebody say to me, they were just like, you know, when Katie and me, well, Katie moved here first and I followed her, and they were like, when you arrived, everyone was like, oh yeah, you seem great. Let's see if you hang around, you know. And it's like a year later when people see that you've actually put in the time and you've...
People would always say to me, have you done a winter here?
Yes.
Which I thought was very interesting. So that's similar to that. I also want to quickly, before I want you to go on, but I wanted to, quick sidebar, that I think your introversion is more genuine than my extroversion. I'm not saying that I am.
That's a line.
I'm not saying that I'm disingenuous, but
Yeah.
I think it's learned behavior. The
Right.
extroversion. I am actually more introverted than I seem. I
Okay.
think, but
I'll bear that in mind. I'll be kinder when I
wanna
introduce you to people.
fucking hit him now.
This
I
is
don't know
Bart.
why.
He's an introvert. You wouldn't think it, since he's the life and soul
Such a
of the
bastard.
party.
I tried to make your introversion into a positive thing and see what it landed me. Well, fuck off. Sir.
Back off.
Yeah.
Introversion's my thing.
Yeah.
You have extroversion.
Oh, you have a beard. Come on, we decided the beard is how people can separate us. And the height.
The height. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's Bart there, the introvert leading the session.
Yeah. Exactly. Hello. Hello, people.
Just sit in the back and play bass. Bum, 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 bum.
Yeah, exactly. Be literally the foundation of the music. But I do think that's very interesting. That people here, we are on. Like I think the Waterboys have a song about at the end of the world. You know, it's a very joyous song actually.
Yeah.
But it's like we are like on the edge of the Atlantic.
Yeah.
And it's nice because it's a selector as well.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of goes. If you can, I asked a French guy, Pierre, who we both know, lovely dude, lovely baker.
Mm-hmm.
I asked him. I said like, so actually, Pierre, I think I know the answer, but why? You know, you're from France, where there's a lot of things to recommend that country. Okay, someone's sawing down trees. So it was just the weather was shite that week. I was just like, oh God, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And I said, so why is it worth it for you? And he says, good vibes. You know, and I think that's what it is like. But it gets the what's the expression? The wheat from the chaff.
Yeah, separates the wheat from the chaff.
Yeah, separates the wheat from because like a lot of Dutch people come here and go, oh, I love this, I love that, but Jesus, it rains a lot, and I'm like, you're separated.
Yeah.
and it's nice because it's not a denominator by anything like class or race or whatever or even language necessarily, but it's like. Do you value the invisible more than the tangible, maybe? Well, no, tangible is not the right word because the invisible is tangible, but you know what I mean,
I do, and
yeah.
I think that's a really good question. I want to come back to that, but I just remember, I'm not sure if I can say this, but like we were at an
I think that's an important point actually, is that we should talk freely and then we can always edit.
Yes,
that.
true.
And you're doing the editing,
that's
so
it.
I can say that.
That's it. And I'm going to do is it Cinema Paradiso, where I accidentally release all the bits we edited out.
Without any context.
Number one on Spotify.
Yeah, oh God.
But we were at a party and there was an American woman, and she comes to Ireland very often, and loves Doolin, loves the West, loves the sessions. She's like, oh my God, the music, But then she was like, but Irish people need to realise at a session, some people want to do it, and she was making demands because she was at a session and somebody told her to sing, and then she wasn't comfortable, and then she did it, and she wasn't happy with how somebody accompanied her or something like that, and she was like, you guys need to realize that and I'm like, she's completely allowed to have that opinion, that's her truth, absolutely, but like that's how sessions run. If you go up to a session and say, oh, I've got this, I do a great job of this song, I'm really good at singing this song, well, fucking sing it.
Yeah.
And you will be encouraged to the point of being pressured.
Yeah.
Like that is part of it. And that is the crucible that Irish music is forged in. This kind of comes back around to the idea of cultural exchange, and that at a certain point you might be able to start making demands of the new culture you find yourself in. But it's probably not a great idea to start off by doing that if you want to have a long relationship. People
have to know who you are and that you're respectful of the basis of it. I think this is one of the problems with cultural exchange is that there seems to be an idea now that the culture should be so universal that it can accommodate anything. Yeah. And I think that's where actually countries fall down, because they lose the roots there. There was a Dutch comedian had a lovely line. He said, if your tree is well rooted, you don't mind having some strange birds sitting on the branches. Yeah. But once that rootedness is gone, and if you talk about the session like that and be like, right, so what we need to do to completely revise the session, I'm like, then the roots are gone.
Yeah.
That's actually so integral to. I did my my bachelor thesis on minority rights in the Netherlands, and we were talking about particularly Muslims, about like the way they slaughter animals and all that stuff, and it's so tricky. And I went into it and I tried to find all sorts of solutions and analyses, but now looking back at it, I kind of go, I think you should give people all the freedom that you can without some of the prime directives kind of a society falling to those demands. I think that's kind of where it has to go, but people find that very hard to go, no, actually, sorry guys, this is the line.
Yeah.
Because, well, for instance, I don't know actually where I stand on this, but if you say, no, here we butcher an animal by just killing it instantly. We can do that. We have the technology to shoot them through the head with a bolt and they're gone, rather than cutting their throat and letting them bleed out. Now, that I know there's people who can do that expertly and all that, so I'm actually not making a judgment on that thing. But that's one of the times where you're going to have to go, what is our prime directive in this area, and how much can we allow for that? Because it does start, there will be erosion at some point. And I know this is one of those things you say, people can take that out of context. I actually don't mean any harm by it, but I just think there is a point where you have to go,
Yeah, and I love knotty problems like this. And I'm actually like you. I don't know where I stand on that. We need to get an expert in butchery to talk about it. But like, I will say that I think the solution to that is just like chatting to people.
Exactly.
Like both sides.
Exactly.
Like,
rather than going, you cannot say that because you're a horrible person for even bringing that up.
Or labeling something as like, oh, you don't value this country, or your religion is backward, or something like. People talking to other people is very, very important. And like, in a big globalized world, we are coming up against very foreign concepts constantly, and you have to wonder if we're equipped for it, because 100%. We are coming up against so much data and so many new concepts, probably like on a daily basis, compared to our grandparents. Like it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. Well, we can have a whole talk about that. But bringing it back to music and Irish culture, probably something we sometimes need to do is tie it back, because you and I can fly very far and wide. Saturn, but even though like I have a lot of things to say, that was interesting what you just said. But it's as someone coming into this culture completely from abroad, it's interesting that in able to be in some way successful in integrating into it, you really have to have an open mind, because there have been things that I've said or done, and it's been small things, but where I'd like, oh right, I didn't completely get that right. Yeah. One of the things I've noticed, for instance, is that Dutch people give their opinion so freely about people that I can sometimes go like, oh geez, your man is a bit of a grump or whatever, and someone will go, yeah, he's a good friend of mine actually, and I'm like, that is, but that's not, I'm not doubting that. I actually like him a lot as well, but so, and that's one of the things where it's like, oh, okay, so people will interpret my speaking openly about someone as me casting judgment on them. That's something I need to think about, and maybe I'll hold off on that for a bit. And it's not about like instantly throwing everything you do away, but it's kind of like, it's good then to be a bit introspective and go, 100%. I think that's really powerful. And I think, again, as a Dutch man in Ireland, you will be able to like shine a light on things like that Irish people might be a bit slower to recognize as well. In that you can say something like that about somebody and not have it in any way as be a value judgment on the person. But just a descriptor, and I'm also
go
on. No,
I am now like, because I want this to be fairly honest as well. Like, even saying all this now, I'm a bit afraid of coming across as like, oh, the successfully integrated Dutchman. People going, you fuck off. With your, like, who do you and that's a big thing here as well. That you can have notions very quickly. Whereas I actually don't think I do, and I'm actually really insecure about a lot of the stuff we're talking about, but I can still express it. But I would, that would be something I'd be afraid if we put this out. I'd be afraid if people go, oh, you think, well, I actually think you.
Because if anyone can look at us, and if they nitpick our life, they can be like, oh yeah, you're not integrated properly, or you're not representing this properly, or none of us are none of us are perfect. All of us are, going through the journey. And, I lived in China for 3 years and really tried to understand the culture. And I think I probably have a better idea of it than most. But that idea is still infinitesimal. It's you could dedicate the rest of your life to it. And there's something to be said for, for being respectful, but also authentic. You know, and obviously, I hope this doesn't need to be said, but there's parts of China I very, very dearly love, and people and experiences I've had there, and then there's parts that are absolutely abhorrent. And it's difficult sometimes to hold those two things in your mind. But I think it's part of being an adult and being an active world citizen, in that I can see the good of this and I can see the bad of this. And there's a certain stage or at least I kind of reached with with my association with that country, where people really do start nitpicking. And they're like, okay, well, if you really think that you get it, well, then why is your Chinese so bad? Why can't you write properly? Why can't you do this or that? Why haven't you read this book? Why? And there's a million things they can use to crush you. And definitely in my situation, I kind of made a bit of a mental adjustment, and I'm like, I'm an Irish man that has some experience in China. I academically, my academic background is very much focused on China. I've been studying it for 15 years, but I'm Irish. And you can come at me with all this stuff about how I'm not representing this or that aspect of the culture, but I'm not trying to. I am authentically an Irish person with this experience. And I think that's important as well, to exist in this liminal space, and not completely try to subsume yourself to a culture or dictate to it.
100%. Yeah, no, I think you put it very well there. And there was two things that made me think of. I think one of them is that whenever I'm listening to someone, I try to listen. Are they trying to shut something down, or are they trying to create something or connect to something? That's usually pretty, it's so hard these days to know what's true. And I'm raising my voice a little because of the rain. I don't know what that's going to be.
All ambience.
But if someone's trying to connect or trying to create something, I'm usually like, nice. When they're trying to shut something down or make someone shut up, I'm like, I don't know. And I so I'd say it's a harsh criticism always to get when people are like, you've no right to be doing this or to be saying this.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I was thinking of is that probably part of this podcast that we both feel that we're at an age maybe, or part of our development where we actually would like to say things a bit more and stand for things a little bit more.
Yeah, now that I've hit 23, I think I have a pretty good idea of how the world works. And
but that's the thing then as well. Someone could shut you down and go, you don't know. What have you, right? If you, but it's actually like, but I am going to try and actually be myself and speak at some point, because otherwise I'm going to be dead and won't have said anything. I'd rather say things and stand for some things than fall for nothing, and then and yes, please talk to me, criticize me in a hopefully kind and compassionate way, but sometimes maybe not. I think that's what we're both trying to straddle.
I think that's so well said, man. Yeah, that's it, because I'm exceptionally cognizant of everything I don't know. Yeah. My job is knowing what I don't know, and try. And it's exactly as you said. If you wait until you know everything, you never say anything. Yeah. And I do like to chat, and I like to have deep conversations with people, particularly yourself. But but there's, that is, I think that's a really good encapsulation of the hopefully the principles of the pod. I think it's interesting that we've come to that by talking about cultural exchange as well. It's almost like cultural exchange on a personal level. As a journalist, I really like Iman Amrani, who used to work with the Guardian, and she did this brilliant YouTube series on modern masculinity. First episode is about Jordan Peterson fans. I think we should have a little bell that we ring, the Peterson bell. Yeah, I'll add in the Foley afterwards. But at the end of one of the episodes, and she's of Middle Eastern descent. You know, she's
Yeah.
Muslim. And at the end of one of the episodes, she was like, I know it might surprise you that I'm a Guardian journalist, but I don't actually fully agree with political correctness. And she said, I think what's most important to me when it is respect and honest communication.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really important. When you have these honest chats, you actually really open yourself up. It's very vulnerable to be honest. And it's right for people to criticize. Like, this is how things progress. But you would just hope that they do it in good faith.
100%. And that thing that we've heard in the recent years, people go, no, it's time for you to sit down for a bit or to not talk for a bit. I just don't believe that. I think whatever you try to push away or push to the side will just fester and will just gain momentum and will grow weird. Whereas everything that is brought to the light will be better. And if people don't have a voice, please give them a voice, but don't do it by trying to shut other people up. Because I really think, even just practically, you're getting yourself into so much trouble.
Yeah.
There was a comedian. He's on the Flagrant podcast. He's of Indian descent, Akash Singh, and he has this bit about he talks to a guy in the audience, who's like an accountant or something. You know, he's a white dude. I'm stereotyping, but he is in that case. And he kind of and the guy is so like polite and respectful, and he's kind of like, look at him. He has everything, but he can't have a voice anymore. You know, and he says, you know what happens then? They save up all those opinions and they go into the voting booth and they all vote Donald Trump. Yeah. And I think like it's so funny and everyone laughs, and it's kind of like that's what happens when you try to push people away. I'm all for raising other people up, but when you try to push people away, they will all go. And now we can have many talks about there must be a different Trump bell. But
I was just saying, we've got Peterson and Trump in 90 seconds.
Well done, well done. We're now officially a right-wing podcast, even just by mentioning them. But you can have talks, but it's not even about that. It's just about like, the things you push away will come back to haunt you.
You know, I was having a chat with my aunt who's English or living in England a long time, and she was just talking about how in her opinion, there aren't many politicians in the UK that are very principled anymore, you know? And I was like, I think Corbyn had pretty strong principles. And she was like, but he was dangerous. You know?
Yeah. Oh, that's
And I'm like, the way the political system works is you present a range of opinions and you let people choose, you know? And I think it's exactly right. If you take those things off the table, then they just fester, you know? Now, that said, this is another thing where I don't, because we've had conversations before about hate speech and stuff like that. But yeah, we're getting wildly off topic here, actually. Yeah. But just to bring it back round, we were talking about Clare and the fact that both of us neither of us are from here, but both of us have chosen this place. Yeah. Or I've chosen a wonderful woman who chose this place. I've kind of outsourced that major life decision. Couldn't be happier about it. But one of the things when people ask me what's the difference between Clare and Kerry, I always come back to the trad. And you know, Clare and Kerry both very, very well known for traditional music, but I find, and I hope I'm not. If any Kerry trad musicians are listening, you can let me know. But like, what I love about the Clare trad scene is that everybody's playing with everyone. You know, you go up to a session, there could be, you know, a 13-year-old there and like literally an 80-year-old, you know, some of those old sessions and dailies, you know, you never knew who was going to turn up, and it was so alive, you know, and that sense of community, especially for me, I spent COVID and lockdown in Kerry, and just coming to a place where community and chats and coming together are valued so much. Yeah. I didn't realize that was like a core principle of mine until I got here, and I was like, oh yeah, no, this, you know, I'm very, very much willing to do whatever I have to do to be a part of this.
That's very nice, and I think that's true. I absolutely love Dingle. I think Dingle actually has a very vibrant music scene as well, although I don't know it as well. But I really know people like Owen O'Neill, for instance, who's a wonderful bouzouki player, session leader, and radio DJ for Clare FM. And also like he really helped me when I was really nervous to get into sessions and stuff. But he's so brilliant. I was in a session with him a month ago, and there was a lot of Americans. I think it was 90% Americans coming in for probably already for the Innistrad Festival or something.
Oh yeah.
And one of them said, like, kind of self-consciously, which was kind of, in a way, like you said, it might have been appropriate, but he was kind of like, "Oh, Jesus, Owen, you're the only Irishman playing in this session, And he's like, "Oh, gee, don't mind about that now." He's like, "There was no trad music in my house growing up, and that's nothing to do with anything."
Yeah.
And I loved that. I
Yeah,
thought, like,
that's
geez,
beautiful,
good
yeah.
man, Owen. It was so
Yeah.
easy in that moment to just go, sure, isn't that funny, or whatever. But
Yeah.
he was like, "I'm actually going to make a little stand here and make everyone feel more comfortable as well." I thought that's one of those little gracious things that people do that they probably don't even think about, where you're like, fucking fair play to you.
Absolutely, because I studied music in UCC, and we had a few modules on trad. I do not have a trad background. I'm still very much finding my way, but coming here has let me see the living oral tradition of trad, where like we go up to the session and you and Kieran and Trish are swapping tunes off each other, and like in between songs you're teaching like the fiddly bits, and oral traditions are kept alive by people, right?
Yeah.
It's not if you print it off and put it on a page and bind it and put it in a library, it's dead. It's not it anymore. And I think what's lovely about Owen there is that like he seems to recognize that, and one of the things you talk about culture and a tree with deep roots and stuff. I mean, Irish culture, despite a couple of hundred years of attempts by a certain
people.
neighbour to systematically eradicate all aspects of language and music and religion and art and sport, is incredibly strong globally for an island of 6 million people.
And they couldn't fucking do it.
Yeah.
Doesn't that make you proud to like not be an Irishman like me? But like, is it funny? Like, that's the funny side of that cultural exchange, is that there are things about it that move me so deeply. Like when you said that, I was like, and they didn't fucking get him. It's like,
and
well
it is
put.
truly global, like and it's
even as a brand, which is gets a bit cynical then sometimes, but it's very global, and people have even people who have no clue about it have such a strong sense of it. I was busking at the Cliffs of Moher a couple of months ago, and an American lady came up to me, and there's always a lot of American tourists there who are so enamored with the music. And actually, that's another thing that Owen always said when I first moved here. It's like, geez, we love the Americans, because people can be cynical about them sometimes, but they're very friendly, they're extremely respectful of the music, and they keep the lights on for us during the winter. And I thought, like, yes, very good to be grateful for that. It's easy to be cynical of other people or of their habits, But then there was a lady at the Cliffs, and she asked me to play the Drunken Sailor, and I was like, I don't know the origin of that song, but I don't think it has anything to do with Ireland. But then thinking about, obviously, because I'm such a people pleaser, I gave it a good go. Key G, there we go. But thinking about it later, or even just thinking about it now, I was thinking, isn't it amazing that she actually didn't know anything about the Irish music, but she still had such a strong feeling of it. And enthusiasm for it, even though she didn't actually know any of the content of it. But she was kind of like, well, this kind of sounds like it should be something like that. And that's kind of, you know what I mean? Like, it was, in a way, it was odd, but in a way, it also showed the keenness to connect and even without any knowledge, still having a sense of what it should be or something like that.
Yeah, it's weird, it's like, it's in 4/4. It's got a bit of a dancey, dotted rhythm. It's probably... It's about alcohol. It's probably Irish.
It kind of has a piratey feel. So then I suppose the West, in the west of England has kind of that. That's kind of where the pirate accent comes from, isn't it? That's
that was the Treasure Island, wasn't it? The guy who played Long John Silver.
Yeah, And that there are some things that sound a little bit like the Irish accent, so maybe she got it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, this story's going way off topic, but I thought that was kind of
Yeah.
well, cute sounds condescending, but I mean, like, it's kind of cool that even without any knowledge, she still likes it. You know?
Yeah, and I think it's when you can, like, stuff like that it depends on the mood I'm in, Bart. You know,
Yeah.
Sometimes like stuff like that can drive me absolutely bananas because I worked. I used to, in one job I used to have to give talks to groups of Americans.
Yeah.
And I remember sometimes I'd be like, "Where do you guys think I'm from?" And I'd say I'm from Ireland and stuff. We'd be like, "They're after your Lucky Charms," and I don't know what accent that was, but pot meet kettle.
Yeah.
But yeah, that gets very tiresome. But it's about the intent behind it, right? If that woman was coming at it with genuine intent and just being a bit swept up by the music, great,
Well, but I really understand the annoyance as well.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of, though, what we would like is to go, if someone has an opinion or put something out that we don't like, to actually take a few seconds and go, what's the nice way of looking at that?
Yeah.
Like, you can't always do that. Sometimes you have to just be harsh about something or critical.
Yeah.
But like, you can go, Jesus, ignorant, so and so. But actually, fine.
Yeah.
Like I've heard so many people say to me, "Oh, Holland, is that in Amsterdam or something?" And I'm just like, yeah, those two words belong together. Well done.
Yeah.
That sounded horrible.
No, but it's true. Like, there's a geographical, a general
Like,
general
the fuck
kind of.
do I know about most of the world? Like,
yeah.
I can't. Like, imagine. I think, is Russia one of the biggest countries in the world? I know 2 places in Russia.
Yeah.
No, 3. Well done.
Yeah.
It's like I have no knowledge of any. Like, a friend of mine went to live in a Chinese city, which for the life of me, I don't know the name of anymore. And it was huge. It was like the 3rd biggest city. Maybe you've...
It might be Chongqing or something.
Yeah,
like that,
that sounds familiar. And I was just like, never heard about that before.
Yeah,
A couple of million inhabitants, like, no clue. So who are we to talk in a way? Well, you actually probably have a lot more knowledge about a lot more things than me. But,
no, it's definitely not true. But I was at a friend's house, and her father. This is years back. Her father was like he was a lecturer, and he was like, "Oh, we've a load of students in from a university in China." And I'm like, "Oh, where's what city is the university in?" And he's like, "I don't know, fucking Ching Chong or someplace." and I was like, "Oh, they're from Chongqing." And then I was like, "Oh no, you didn't misremember the name of the city. You're just being racist."
Or at least very insensitive.
I was there correcting his tone pronunciation and stuff. I was like, "Oh no, it's just racism."
We got it. We got it. Oh, so funny. Yeah, I think that was fun.
Yeah, I think that's pretty clear. I think we answered all the questions.
Thank you.